Welcome to this tips and tricks video for Dirty Bomb. I'm presuming you've got the basics of the game down. You know your loadout cards from your missions, and perhaps you've noticed some people moving around the game in a slightly different manner. If you are brand new to the game, I'd suggest watching my 7 tips and tricks for new players video first. There's a handy link on the screen right now, or you can find another link in the description below. So today we're going to look at crouch jumping, using the console to access maps for practicing, wall jumps, some more advanced wall jumps combining techniques together, and lots of examples with suggestions on when to use them. So in my other video I talked briefly about running with your knife out. This can give you a sizable boost in speed over simply running with your primary weapon in hand. But there are other techniques that can allow you to move around with even more speed, not just for efficiency, but also for tactical advantage. First of all, jumping. Yes, amazingly, Dirty Bomb allows you to jump. Jumping is like bad short-term flying. It's groundbreaking stuff, I'm sure you agree. Yes, okay, fine. It's the staple of many a shooter game. And when you combine it with sprinting, you jump even further in the game world. Yep, no big surprises so far. However, Dirty Bomb takes this a step further by adding the crouch jump or long jump or lunge, depending on what you call it. This gives you a speed boost and allows you to jump even further. It's this technique that is often the basis for more complex movement in Dirty Bomb. To execute a crouch jump, you want to be sprinting, then, just before you jump, tap the crouch key. It can be awkward to get used to at the start. It can feel initially like you don't have enough fingers to time that keystroke. I found that using my small or pinky finger to press either the left shift key or left control key works best for me. Dirty Bomb lets you set up multiple keys for the same action, so you don't need to totally move your normal crouch key. When you execute a crouch jump properly, your merc emits a small sort of jumping effort noise, and you'll notice that your jump is faster and over greater distance. You should spend some time practicing this technique so that you can reliably execute it, even when you're in the middle of a firefight. It's worth mentioning that long jumping isn't just a technique that allows you to perform some of the more creative trick jumps around the map. It's a useful skill in its own right. The extra burst of speed it affords you and the longer distance you travel mean that it can be a useful tool when in a fight as well. It allows more erratic movement and hence means you're more difficult for an enemy to track. As we all know, live servers are often not the best place to practice new skills. You don't want to be that person in the corner jumping and not helping the team. So it's in this vein I give you one tip to allow you to enter a better practice area. Dirty Bomb doesn't have a dedicated practice option or zone yet, though the developers do seem open to the idea. So in the meantime, we can use console commands to launch offline maps directly on your computer, not on a normal game server. I find the best way to do this is to select the tutorial option from the play menu. It's the last option. Then, once you're in the street with Skyhammer, press the home button on your keyboard and you'll get a mini console opened along the bottom of your screen. If you don't have a home button on your keyboard, you can try the apostrophe key to open the main console. From this console, we can open many of the maps we normally play on live servers, but they are in a sort of tutorial mode, so to speak. So some of the user interface is slightly different and some of the sounds, such as the crouch jump, don't actually work. It's functionally fine though, and a perfect place to try new movement techniques. In the console, type switch level, that's all one word, switch level, space, obj_trainyard. When you press enter, the game will load the trainyard map with you on the attacking team. One of the limitations of this sort of tutorial mode is that you don't have access to the normal lobby loadout system. So without using a bunch more console commands, you can't easily access all the mercs. However, you can access 3 mercs via the normal F1 through F3 keys when you die. So in this case, you'll probably want a fast merc to try out crouch jumping. So press K to self-kill and then press F2 to select proxy. You can now try and practice crouch jumping to your heart's content. You can change to other maps by replacing the obj_trainyard section of the console command with bridge, which is obj_bridge, chapel is obj_Whitechapel, terminal is obj_Victoria, and underground is obj_canary wharf. It's also worth pointing out that the maps you load are always in their first section of their evolution. There's no easy way currently to jump around, for example, the final stage of Trainyard. Hopefully this will all change in the future as Dirty Bomb progresses towards full launch. You will have heard about Dirty Bomb's wall jumping or parkour system. These abilities really come alive when teamed with the crouch jumping technique we talked about earlier. So let's look at one of the more obvious jumps you'll have seen from the opening stage of the map terminal. The defenders have this obstruction on the left-hand side area of the map, often referred to as luggage. It's clear that this obstacle is meant to be jumped over, but walking up to it and trying to wall jump off it or double jump up it aren't very successful techniques in Dirty Bomb. You'll find yourself pushed back as you try to clear the obstacle. The way Dirty Bomb's parkour system works is often by using nearby walls to rebound off and then propel you up and over an obstacle. So in this case we have a handy wall to the left side. You want to jump towards that wall and then simply jump off that wall as you come into contact. Even at a normal sprinting pace, you find that you can clear this obstacle with real ease and with a high degree of repeatability. I suggest practicing this technique a number of times until it feels natural. And so, as we just talked about the crouch jump or long jump, let's try that in combination with the wall jump. As you can see, there's a massive increase in speed now. Your timing with the crouch key and then the jumping off the wall propels you forward with real vigour. It's one of the keys to more advanced movement around maps in Dirty Bomb. Once you can repeatedly do crouch jumps off walls, you can try to chain them together. I find a great place to practice this is on Chapel. That's OBJ Whitechapel if you're loading the map yourself. It's just the left side of where the EV parks to have a nice sleep. As we saw earlier, if you jump at a wall, you tend to get bounced off it to some degree. So using this wall on Chapel is kind of perfect for practicing. As it gently curves inwards, you're less likely to miss your next jump. In this example, I'm just jumping off the wall like we did the small luggage wall on Terminal. And as you can see, you can traverse back along the wall to the starting point too. And it's about this time you actually want to start re-evaluating all the normal routes you take around maps. Not just in terms of whether there's a shortcut over a wall or something, but because the obvious speed differences mean that even just chaining a couple of wall jumps together can benefit the pace you can move around the map and hence your ability to appear in places and at times that the enemy finds difficult to predict. This narrow route on Terminal is just one example. People often just run down this alleyway, but due to it being so narrow, you can speed up your progress by chaining some jumps together. And as you can see from some live server gameplay, this also allows you to vary your movement when you come under fire and want to pull back. A normal side-to-side movement would allow the defender to easily track my head, but variation in height and erratic movement increases your chances of survival. With a bit more crouch wall jump experience, this jump into the upper section of the map on Terminal becomes quite easy. Just like we did on that curved wall on Chapel, we just have to time our wall jump as we come into contact with that metal support. Another popular jump is this one into the corner building on Terminal when you're defending. This is a little bit more convoluted than previous jumps, as you need to, in effect, rattle between the pillars of the building to gain the height required. I'm gonna be honest here and say that I'm not brilliant at this jump, mainly because as a defender it's mostly advantageous for snipers, of which I am not, but it's certainly a commonly used tactic in competitive play. If you spend your time looking through a scope, you'll probably want to spend some of that time making sure you can reliably do this jump. One last point here is that you need to hold crouch when you reach the peak of this jump. This, in effect, pulls your legs up and allows you to land on that window ledge. Let's look at this left-hand side by the ammo box jump on Chapel. And for me, this is slightly contentious, mainly as you need to do a sort of super crouch wall jump by repeatedly tapping jump off this right side fence to gain enough height to clear that railing in front. And if I'm honest, it feels unintentional at best. You get a sort of undeserved boost from the subsequent rapid jump key presses. This is also a good time now to talk about latency when it comes to trick jumps. To put it bluntly, in my experience, the higher the ping, the more difficult they are to time, which I guess shouldn't really surprise anyone. But that's in comparison to hit registration in Dirty Bomb, which I'd say is fairly robust over a wide range of pings, due to it being a hybrid client-side detection system, whereas movement feels much more susceptible to the effects of latency. So I find this left-hand side jump on Chapel increasingly difficult if my ping reaches the 150 millisecond range. So keep that in mind. When you load a map via the console, it's on your computer, so your ping is effectively 0. It may not be quite as easy to do on a live server. Here's a couple more cheeky but I find useful jumps. If you're a class like Proxy and you wipe the defenders on the final stage of Chapel and you want to hold them back while your teammate runs the objective in, using this bust jump to breach their wall and pop down some sneaky mines can be a good idea. People generally think that the noise of the mines is coming from over the wall too, so that's an added bonus. Even if you're not a Proxy, you can take the opportunity to run up the right hand side elevated walkway and hassle any snipers that are retaking their perch. And as we know, hassling snipers is the morally right thing to do. It's often preferable on Chapel to run the objective in the far left hand side of the map, as you can get closer and still have some cover. But the sightlines mean that even if you plan to run it along that elevated bridge, often the defenders will spot you. So if you do a simple crouch wall jump onto these railings, and then quickly hop over, you can approach without being spotted by eagle-eyed defenders, all sneaky beaky. This jump from the office area on bridge isn't even a crouch or wall jump, but it allows defenders who anticipate attackers pushing down onto the rear walkway to outflank them. You exit through the left-hand window and simply hop onto the top of the lamppost. From there, you can just run off into the middle of the bridge, hopefully taking the attackers by surprise. This jump is for defenders during the second stage of bridge, so the EV has been repaired but isn't quite yet in its final destination. Normally people will exit the garage and run up the steps, but as we all know, that's a fairly predictable route for attackers to anticipate. Instead, if we use the first window at the top of the stairs and then rattle between the wall and the building, we can access the main road without even using the stair exit. If you take a look around the unfinished dome map at the moment, you can see markers on the walls where designers have intended players to wall jump. This is actually a really useful term for people to learn designed-in jumps. Experience and mastery of the jumping system seems to be essential with the creation of newer maps like Dome and Canal. Their increased verticality means that your ability to gain and maintain height will be a skill worth having. Thanks very much for watching this tips and tricks video for movement and jumping in Dirty Bomb. I hope you enjoyed it. Why not leave me some feedback and thumb that subscribe button so you know when my next video is out. It helps me out a lot. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear them. Fire them into the comment section below. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at LCTRGames. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.